Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 92a, part 2, with the words Amar Rabbi Elazar. Kol Parnas Shemanig es Hatzibur Benachas, Zoiche Umanigam Lo Ilam Habo, Shneemar Ki Merachamam Yinagem Ve'ad Mibuei Ma'im Nehanahalim. Rabbi Elazar says any communal leader who leads the community calmly, without anger and honestly, is privileged and leads them in the world to come, as it is stated, for he that has compassion upon them will lead them. Even by the springs of water shall he guide them. Isaiah 49:10. Just as he led them in this world, so too will he guide them in the world to come. Rabbi Elazar Gadol De'ah Shinitina ben shtei ois Shinemar ki kel de'os Hashem. The Gemara proceeds to cite additional statements of Rabbi Elazar relating to recommended conduct. And Rabbi Elazar said, "Great is knowledge, as it was placed between two letters, two names of God, as it is stated, for God of knowledge is the Lord." 1 Samuel 2, chapter 2, verse 3. Amar Rabbi Elazar Gadol Mikdash Shinitan ben shnei oises Shnemar Pa'alta Hashem Mikdash Hashem Kon Yedecha. Mas Gifle Rab Ada Kar China Ela Miata Gadol Nekama Shinitan ben shnei oises Kel Nekamas Hashem Kel Nekamas Hashem. Rabbi Elazar says, "Great is the holy temple, as it too was placed between two letters, two names of God, as it is stated, the place in which to dwell, that you have made, Lord, the temple, Lord, which your hands have prepared." Exodus 15:17. Rav Karchina objects to the explanation that being placed between two names of God accords significance. If that is so, then same should hold true for vengeance. Shall one say, God is vengeance, as it was placed between two letters? As it is written, God of vengeance, Lord, God of vengeance, shine forth. Psalms 94, verse 1. Amrlei, the Elazar said to him, Lemilte hachinami kedu'ula. Don't stay first. Halalu lama achadamina toiv achadamina pranius puranut. Rabbi Elazar said to him, in this context, indeed, vengeance is great, and according to the statement of Ula, as Ula says, with regard to these two appearances, O Lord, God to whom vengeance belongs, God to whom vengeance belongs, appear. Psalms 94, verse 1. And he appeared from Mount Paran, Deuteronomy 33, verse 2. Why are both necessary? The second verse is necessary for the attribute of divine good, with which God gave the Torah at Sinai. And the second verse is necessary for attribute of divine good, which God gave the Torah at Sinai. And the first verse is necessary for the attribute of divine punishment, which God exacts vengeance against the enemies and oppressors of the Jewish people. Okay. Shezeh nitan ben shtei oisios. Zeh nitan ben shtei oisios. The Elazar says, with regard to any person in whom there is knowledge, it is as though the temple was built in his days, as this knowledge was placed between two letters, and that the temple was placed between two letters. ויאמר רבי אלעזר, כל אדם שיש בו דעה, בסוף מתעשר. שנאמר, ובדעת חרדים ימלאו כל הון יקר ונעים. Rabbi Elazar says, any person in whom there is knowledge ultimately becomes wealthy, as it is stated, and by knowledge are the chambers filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Proverbs 24, verse 4. ויאמר רבי אלעזר, כל אדם שאין בו דעה אסור לרחם עליו. שנאמר כי לא עם בינות הוא, על כן לא ירחמנו עושהו, ויוצרו לא יחוננו. Rabbi Elazar says, with regard to any person in whom there is no knowledge, it is prohibited to have mercy on him, as it is stated, for it is a people of no understanding, therefore its maker will have no mercy on them, and its creator will show them no favor. Isaiah 27:11. If God has no mercy on them, all the more so should people not show them mercy. ואמר רבי אלעזר, כל הנועצים פתאום למי שאין בו דעה, יסורין בו אין עליו, שנאמר לחמך, ישימו מזור תחתיך, ואין תבונה בו. ואין מזור אלא יסורין, שנאמר, וירא אפרים את חילו, ויהודה את מזרו. Rabbi Elazar says, with regard to anyone who gives his bread to one without knowledge, afflictions befall him, as it is stated, they who eat your bread will place mazor under you, in whom there is no discernment. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 7. And mazor means nothing other than afflictions, based on the parallel with another verse, as it stated, Ephraim saw his sickness and Judah his wound. Hosea 5:13. This indicates that one who gives his bread to one without discernment will ultimately fall ill. ויאמר רבי אלעזר, כל אדם שאין בו דעה להוסיף גוילה, שנאמר לכם גילה עמי מבלי דעס. Mozro. Where are we holding? Okay, if God has no mercy on them, all the more so people should not show mercy. Okay. Okay. Rabbi Elazar. Okay, we're just saying. Rabbi Elazar says with regard to any person. Rabbi Elazar called Adam she'ein bo dea asur rachem alav. Shnei ki lo ambinot hu al ken lo yichanenu oseh yotzro lo yichanenu. And Rabbi Elazar says with regard to any person in whom there is no knowledge, it is prohibited to have mercy upon him, as it is stated, for it is a people of no understanding, therefore its maker will have no mercy on them, and its creator will show them no favor. Isaiah 27:11. If God has no mercy on them, all the more so should the people not show them mercy. You know what? I think we're going to stand up. I think it's going to be a little better. Okay. Rabbi Elazar konos and Peter the Mishain by Dea Yisurim by Nalav Shnemer Lachmecha Yisimun Mazar Tachtecha in Tavuna. Mazora Yisur Shnemar of Yar Ephraim Mitzchelov Yehudas Mozro. Rabbi Elazar says with regard to anyone who gives his bread to one without knowledge, afflictions befall him, as it is stated, they who eat your bread will place mazor under you, in whom there is no discernment. Obadiah 1:7. I think we did this. And mazor means nothing other than afflictions, based on the parallel with another verse that is stated, Ephraim saw his sickness and Judah his wound. Hosea 5:13. This indicates that one who gives his bread to one without discernment will ultimately fall ill. Rabbi Elazar, Kol Adam She'im Bodea, L'Sof Goleh, Shneimar, L'Chen Gala Ami, Mibli Dat. Rabbi Elazar says, any person in whom there is no knowledge is ultimately exiled. As is stated, therefore my people are exiled for lack of knowledge. Isaiah 5:13. Rabbi Elazar, Kol Boin. Kol Beis Shein, Divrei Torah Nishmaim, Bo Belayla, Eish, Ochalto, Shneimar, Kol Choshech Tabun, Nitzfunav, Tochelu, Eish, Lo, Nupach, Yira, Sarid, Be'ohalo. Ein Sarid, Ela Talmid Chacham, Shneimar, Uva Sridim, Asher Hashem Koreh. Rabbi Elazar says, with regard to any house in which there are no matters of Torah heard at night, the fire of Gehenna consumes it. As it is stated, all darkness is laid up for his treasures. A fire not fanned shall consume him. It shall go ill with a sarid in his tent. Job, sarid is sarid means like a refugee, I think. Job 20:26. Sarid is referring to no one but a Torah scholar, as it is stated, and among the Sridim, those whom the Lord shall call. Joel 3:5. A house that is dark at night, and which no Torah is heard, will be consumed by fire that does not require fanning with bellows, the fire of Gehenna. Kol she'ina mehena Tamidei Chachamim Nichdasin Ein Roya Simon Bracha Le'olam Shneimar Ein Sarid Le'achlo Al Kein Lo Yachil Tovo Ruvo Ein Sarid Ela Tamid Chachamim Shneimar Uva Saridim Asher Hashem Koreh. Rabbi Elazar says anyone who does not benefit Torah scholars from his property never sees a sign of blessing. As it is stated, none of his food shall remain Sarid. Therefore, his property shall not endure. Job 20:21. Sarid is referring to no one but Torah scholars, as it is stated, and among the Saridim, those who the Lord shall call, no prosperity will come to one who does not share his food with a Torah scholar. Rabbi Elazar, Kol Shinam Yishayir Pas Al Shulchan Ein Roya Simon Rachel Olam Shneimar Ein Sarid La'achlo Al Kein Lo Yachil Tuvo. Rabbi Elazar says anyone who does not leave bread on his table at the end of his meal, indicating with gratitude to God for providing him more than enough, never sees the sign of blessing. As it is stated, none of his food shall remain, therefore his prosperity shall not endure. Rabbi Elazar, Kol Meshar Psidim Al Shulchano Ki'ilu Oyedo Hazar Shemar Ha'orechim Lagad Shulchan V'Amamim Lamni The Gemara asks, but doesn't Rabbi Elazar say with regard to anyone who leaves pieces of bread on his table, it is as if he worships idols, as it is stated, who prepare a table for fortune, meaning God, Gad, and offer blended wine for destiny. Isaiah 65:11, the people would leave pieces of bread on the table as an offering to the constellation Gad, which they believed influences the fortune of their home. This was a form of idol worship. The Gemara answers this apparent contradiction is not difficult. In this case, where leaving pieces of bread is a form of idol worship, it applies only when there is a whole loaf together with the pieces, as the addition of the pieces is clearly for idol worship. That case where failure to leave bread on the table is criticized applies when there is no whole loaf together with the pieces. Ve'amar Rabbi Elazar kol machaliv bediburo ki'ilu oved avodah zara. Okay. כאילו עוד כתיב ככה והייתי בעיניו כמתעתע כתיב התם הבל המה מעשה תעתועים. Rabbi Elazar says with regard to anyone who amends the truth in his speech, is as though he worships idols, as it is written here in the verse, when Jacob sought to resist taking his father's blessing from Esau, and I shall go to him a deceiver. Metatea, Genesis 27:12, and it is written there, with regard to idol worship, they are vanity, the work of deception. Jeremiah 10:15. Amar Rabbi Elazar kol mistakel be'erba kashto nig'eres. Oh, Shneimar eria teor kashtecha. Rabbi Elazar says, with regard to anyone who looks at nakedness, his bow is emptied, meaning he'll be robbed of his potency. As it is stated, your bow is stripped bare. Habakkuk 3:9. Amar Rabbi Elazar la'olam halikabel v'kayam. Amar Rabbi Zera afana nami tenina beis afel in pois chiloi chaloi lois lerois nigoish mamina. Rabbi Elazar says, forever be in the dark, anonymous, and you will continue to exist. Rabbi Zera says we learn a similar idea in the Mishnah as well. Nigaim, 2-3 in a dark house. One does not open windows to illuminate it in order to see whether or not its blemish is leprosy, and the house retains the presumptive status of ritual purity. Those matters are obscured and allowed. Those matters that are obscured and allowed to continue. The Gemara affirms, conclude from that Mishnah that this is so. Amar Rav Tuvi, Amar Rav Yehoshua, Mai dechsiv shol boi zerachim, eretz lo sava mayim, v'chi ma inyan shol etzel rechem, el lomer lecha, ma rechem machnizu motzi, av sheol machnizu motzi. The Gemara returns to the topic of the source for the resurrection in the Torah. Rav Tavi says, Rav Yehoshua says, what is the meaning of that which is written? There are three that are never satisfied: the grave, the bare womb, and the earth that does not receive sufficient water. Proverbs 30, 15 through 16, and 16. And what does a grave have to do with a womb? Rather, they are juxtaposed to say, to you, just as a womb takes in and gives forth, so too grave takes in and also gives forth with the resurrection of the dead. שמכניסים בוי בחשאי, מוציאים ממנו בכוילי כוילויס, שואל שמכניסים בו בכוילויס, אין עוד דין שמוציאים ממנו בכוילויס. מכאן, שוב לאמרן, אין תחיית המסים מן התאכה. And are these matters not inferred a fortiori if with regard to a womb, into which one introduces the embryo in secret, one removes the baby from it, accompanied by the loud sounds of the woman crying out during childbirth? Then, with regard to the grave, into which one introduces the corpse with sounds of wailing and mourning the dead, is it not right that one removes from the resurrected dead, accompanied by the loud sounds of the resurrected multitudes? From here it is a response to those who say there is no resurrection of the dead derived from the Torah. ונותר בירושלים קדוש יאמר לו כל הכתוב לחיים בירושלים. מה קדוש לעולם קיים, אף הם לעולם קיים. The school of Eliyahu taught, the righteous one, the Holy One, blessed be He, is destined to resurrect and do not return to their dust, as it is stated, and it shall come to pass that he who remains in Zion and he who remains in Jerusalem shall be called holy, anyone who is written unto life in Jerusalem. Isaiah 4:3, just as the Holy One exists forever, so too will they exist forever.